Yes, 51.5 and 50. Yeah. It will be resounding.
Okay. It will be resounding. It makes sense because with the entrance of Alan and Cheddar, it makes sense.
It will be resounding. It will be
Sir,
resounding.
we are so grateful that you came.
And I thank you. Thank you for having me.
The next time, you know, we did Nkomo.
Yeah.
Now, you know, Nkomo because we are victorious.
Of course. Of course, we'll be here. We'll be here in the studios, and then we'll be able to tell you, say, it is time to move into action and develop our country.
More fire.
There's no holidays for us, but we are winning the elections.
More fire.
So our base should know, say, their vote will be protected. The NDC is the next government, and would ensure, say, our victory is decisive.
And Ghana for you now, Sena Mekano, ye any kind call I much. Look, me say. 8 years for bre enya one day ni sacrifice. Let's sacrifice one day. Yan kwada hwa na dwono otu oba be hia me wo meme ho. By 12 na ya to ya ba na wie. Akoronfo no be ba no na ya to ye de no. Ba woni America no. Nti me sro obia se minua no asante for so mbeto a votarians muso mamon ka dem. No obia no hode ne sabenku kire na jafie kwan. These people go about doing religious politics. Say yen to abama Yewra Bamia because of a Muslimini, a Christopher Muslim to Abama Jomahama, a Christian. We don't want to go that tangent.
Yes.
We don't want to go that tangent of a but Sabi say it's to about with all due respect to my brothers and sister Muslims. Percentage saying and they're Muslims. Vote because somebody is competent. Don't vote on tribal lines.
Yes.
Don't vote on religious lines.
Yes.
And the assembly can say you grab me at the end the assembly they can say they should vote on religion. On the 7th of December. You know year 2 forget the number na paper near the memo number ni so. Yes. Ever's friend he no akatevia akatamanso no no na fetimu nchen.
Part of voters who friend Sowia.
Okay, say voter no. Okay, nti Sowia no na fetim. So me didn't know to da ko. Nyame yadom a ene yenyina yeshia Alec Pluma Kurugu yenyina yeshia 12 p.m. or park no so anopai the work chinchinichi ahihye so
Alec so beji seat na man
do me kwa benya Akurugu for Alec Plum for Akurugu for do me kwa benya yafa ana celebrities for Mahama ana stars for Mahama ana creatives for NDC what try the work on so hihye so I'm say me testeo ye the work hihye so ye be sha say feel a pass ni akovi wa atomic you better say Ubia Beba. Okay, Nakupo Shrapa. And there's Kwame Kwachi. Thank you. And team boy Nina. Yani Ivra. Benjamin question it didn't come. Made a note to Dako. Yami do my best share. But note 53.1% is assured. Stay on.
Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power. Citizen TV, Accra, Ghana. Citizen TV, the citizen's power.
Partisan campaigns by an attorney general. There are other issues that disturb the peace, that have reason to, that can even destabilize the peace, that can create challenges for the society. And certainly if there are laws to deal with it, you will be expecting that the government's attorney general will be interested in some of these matters as well. Okay. But beyond the partisan or political, prosecutions and persecutions, you find that they are not so interested in some of these things. Recently, a very private company led a whole conversation about misinformation and disinformation. They had the Chief Justice herself, they had His Excellency the President, they had the Inspector General of Police, they had almost all the security services bosses represented. And everybody threw their arms in the air in utter askance. Indeed, at the same forum, we had government's information minister literally explaining away and defending the indefensible. And that's what we have. So you ask yourself, when you see fake news, when you see disinformation or misinformation, who are the beneficiaries? And when you look on the scale of 1 to 10, at least 8 out of 10 of the stories you see benefit just the New Patriotic Party largely. Look at their radio stations. We come here all the time. How often do we come here to discuss misleading headlines, for example? We don't. But go to other stations, go to the Ashanti region. where their own party chairman owns a TV and radio station. Check what they do with it. And there are no sanctions whatsoever. They are literally a law unto themselves. They can sit there and spew all manner of rubbish against any individual, and nobody does anything to them. Indeed, the gentleman that they actually, in quote, pretended to arrest had reason to come out on bail and to come and post that he was going to look for fufu and what to eat. He made no bones about it. He showed no remorse for it. He didn't even act as if what he had done bothered him. But you see, the sad thing is that, are we so, stuck into ourselves that we can't even see that sometimes it also pays to do the right thing? That these are things that even the media can take up responsibly to deal with. Imagine a media house taking on somebody for serving them with news that is misleading, with publications that are false, with stories that do not actually bear out the facts that are supposedly given. This will be an exercise that actually helps our society as well. Okay. So I think that we can all have these conversations and debates, and like I said, we are not in the church, we are a political party. And I found there are times when they do these very wicked things, and colleagues of ours say, look, do it to them too. You understand? So boot for boot, idiocy for idiocy. But then to what end? They have an upper hand. They have more resources. They have more visibility. For Christ's sake, they have power in their hands. How do you fight against all of that? But do we then sit and say that just because of that, we have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God? The answer is no. I have no doubt in my mind that once these elections are over and John Mahama is duly elected, these are matters that will be taken very, very seriously. Media houses, media personalities, key personalities will no longer be able to run roughshod over us by disseminating news that they know to be false. Even in some cases, there is no intention. It is just to create mischief and to mislead the general public. But of course, in a country that everybody listens to radio, if you sit on the radio station, for example, now we have a multiplicity of them that speak in various languages. Some people don't even understand one language or the other. So if they want to spew fake news all day to convince or achieve a certain political gain, how do you fight against that? You understand? So we find ourselves in a very difficult situation. Very, very difficult situation. But I believe that the only thing that will end this impunity, that will end this disrespect, that will end this very, very dishonesty that we have, where a government is totally discredited, but because they want to stay on and to deny themselves an opportunity of being accountable to the good people of Ghana, there is only one way to do it, that we will calculatedly distribute and disseminate false and fake news. Somebody says I'll improve, they come back with a new word. Somebody says I'll review, they come back with something else. Somebody says I'll revisit, they come back with something else. But then again, you notice it never happens to them. The question is why? That you wake up in the morning and you see screaming headlines. It's almost as if the newspapers, some of them go to bed together, and they wake up in the morning and the headlines are literally the same. You can just tell that these are all calculated just to create fear and panic. I think that as we go along, society also should be more discerning. Always cross-check. Always make sure before you click the button to send. But they'll tell you, oh no, we are sharing it because we want clarification. Oh, did you say this? In a day you can get 200 of them. How do you fight against something like that? Especially when it's state-sponsored.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
I hope that Joyce doesn't mind. I listened to you very carefully, and you made reference to a Ghanaian king. I was taken aback. There's no king in Ghana. There cannot be a king in Ghana. This is a constitutional, democratic, secular republic. There is no king in Ghana. There can never be a king in Ghana. So it's a small point that I wanted to make.
Thank you.
And I feel very passionately about this.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Joyce, for bringing in the angle of sometimes when people are caught saying some scandalous things, and they'll tell you it's fake. There's an interesting one up on audio of a leak audio of a meeting that involves a parliamentary candidate making the rounds. When it was played, he heard it. He says AI generated. He spoke through or talk about his entire family and everything. But he says it was AI generated. So that's another interest now because of the spread of fake news. Anybody can just claim that this is fake, even though he said it.
Stories from Equatorial Guinea attracted similar comments.
Nilate says, in fact, Nilate says, in fact, Untumi Station would have been shut down in any civilized and serious country, considering the kind of information they put out. Maggie Adai says, I'm sorry, but they don't have power in their hands. Power belongs to the people and not any political party. Kukubo Steven says, watching live from River, misinformation in social media is too much. We have to limit it by arresting people who are publishing it. Cyrus Vivarus is wondering, is interested in Paul Adumochi's response when Mr. Pratt called him on. Actually, I realize that you have avoided making any public. This is the first time I'm making a public comment about the things he said. Yeah, yes. So this is the first time he's actually talking about it. Lydia Kam says, great submission by Joyce Bawa Mukhtari. There's Halidu Anjari says, great man with wisdom, JDM. There's Seth Abochi says, please, I want to know whether Media Commission is still alive and kicking. Yes, it is. There's Nene Tete. Farfo says, Ango Kwesi will never disappoint. Emmanuel Payson says, no single floating voter will choose MBP over NDC. Or will even make a floating voter to choose DMB over JM? Is it the DDEP? Being taxed, Momo tax, COVID tax, or millions under the best of government appointees? That's coming from Emmanuel. Emmanuel, thank you very much for that message. As Peter Dojo says, please tell Uncle Kwesi that I was very impressed when I watched his recent declaration in Niger. I want to meet him in person. He's a great Pan-African. He's a great Pan-Africanist. Jessica Kelly Sherry says, agree. The Peace Council becomes absolutely okay. I salute Mr. Pratt. And thank you very much for those comments here. Francis Gordon says, most Ghanaians can now read between the lines when misinformation is being propagated. Those who champion this misinformation are doing so with malicious political intention to sway some of the public to vote in a certain way. Kofi Simon says, okay, and Kufuor is expecting reasonable Ghanaians to vote for such people who have no respect for any other tribesmen. Such, okay, Kufuor must come again. Thank you for those comments. Those are some of the comments you're sharing with us on our very first topic. Like I said, it's a pre-2024 election conversation, and we are looking at various aspects of the election going into the elections. We're moving on to the matter of the Electoral Commission's preparations. I'll start with you, Doc, once again.
Yeah. So now, going into this election, a lot is at stake, and the people of Ghana really are yearning for a change, and not only a change in leadership, but a change in the processes that would elect our leaders, and a systemic change, right? The country is so highly polarized that today someone would even kill his father or his mother due to politics, right? And I think that if care is not taken, looking at the current data coming from the Afrobarometer report and that of CDD, some of the stakeholders in this year's general election might plunder this country into serious abyss. And we are of the view, and we, the members of the Movement for Change, led by Honorable Alan Kojo Tremantin, are of the view that the people of Ghana, taking inspiration from our historic precedents till date, right, deserve nothing else but an ultimate solution to their problems. And it's quite clear that 68% of Ghanaians have lost trust in this electoral commission going into this election. And I'll give you numerous reasons why this is so. Number one is to do with the flaws in our constitution. And of course, the influence or the usage of partisan lens in conducting government business in the appointment of various heads of independent constitutional bodies like the Electoral Commission. And we've seen the composition of this EC. Bosman Asare, for example, is a known patron of TESCON, which is a tertiary institution body of the MPP, right, which is their youth wing. It's also another branch of their youth wing, which is on various campuses. And when you have such a person have such serious affiliation with a political party, and you take such person to an independent constitutional body, and that same person is going to conduct or manage an electoral process that involves the same party he was a member of, or he is a member, that's the question. Because they can argue and say maybe on paper he has resigned, but maybe in his heart and in his mind he is still with them, and God knows what they have been planning going into this election. But I mean, whatever it takes, the people of Ghana will resist any attempt to rig this election. Now we're talking about constitutional reform, which is one of the themes underpinning the movement for change. Under Article 70 of the 1992 Constitution, the President has a mandate to appoint the EC chairperson and other commissioners of the EC in consultation with the Council of State. We are proposing that Ghana transitions into a bicameral parliamentary system, bringing on board a new chamber, because the country is so polarized. We need a buffer. We need a body that would be able to mitigate the effects of the polarization of our society. And if you look at data like that of the varieties of democracy, and you juxtapose our performance in terms of GDP and public administration, polarization or partiality of our public administration since independence till date, you realize that there is a nexus between the partiality of our public administration and the performance of our GDP. The likes of Malaysia, the likes of Singapore, the likes of South Korea, that have stronger institutions and do not allow partisan politics in their bureaucracy. They adhere to Max Weber's ideal principle of bureaucracy, right? That does not allow politicization of our public administration, right? It inures to the, I would say, optimum and absolute effects of good governance that we're not seeing today. And so with this second chamber that Honorable Alan Kojo-Tramante is proposing, we are going to abolish the Council of State. This second chamber would be made up of non-state actors, namely our traditional authorities, faith-based organizations, the media, right? Youth-led organizations, organizations that promote the interests of the persons with disabilities, academia, industry captains, and also the diaspora. And all these entities, independent or I would say apolitical entities, would come together to appoint heads of independent constitutional bodies, like that of the EC chairperson, the CDS, the IGP, the Chief Justice, and other justices of our Supreme Court. And this would mitigate the issue of politicization of our public administration that is leading to this great mistrust of the people of Ghana in our public polities, right? And we believe that if we are able to achieve this going forward, no EC chairperson's tenure will be conterminous with that of the ruling party that appoints him or her. And that's what we've seen since Afarijan There's been a new era where, be it the NDC or the MPP, whoever is in power, when there's a change of power, and everyone comes with his IGP, his CDS, his CJ, and then their EC chairperson and commissioners of the EC. We want to ensure that we bring in these policy recommendations to stabilize our democracy, because the desire for democracy is losing in the eyes of Ghanaians. Ghanaians are beginning to lose hope in democracy. And this is as a result of the consistent failure of our leadership and our governance system that has failed to promote adequate social and economic development of our people. And the issue of elections and rigging of elections in this country, there's a new scandal out there. I'll say it's a scandal because we are also really much monitoring, we're really much worried about the happenings in, I think, in Nkoko. Yeah. Yes, where the sales of a certain bag that has ballot papers designated for a particular constituency have been tampered with. And according to them, they claim the contents are still intact. But only God knows the truth. Because, Senna, let's be honest here. The police have been complicit in dealing with electoral issues. I mean, I say that without any doubt and without any fear. That is a fact. The police, the military, sometimes are being used by whichever government is in power or parties in power to try and manipulate our electoral processes and rig the election in favor of someone. We've seen an instance, and I was told, as a young person who has great interest in politics, I've heard stories where thugs would come to the polling station, snatch ballot boxes, and then the police, in acting to chase and apprehend them and retrieve the stolen ballot boxes, then connive with them to swipe ballot boxes, right, with the same details, serial numbers and all that, right, of the polling stations and the same credentials of that polling station that erroneous crime happened. And they take it back and they stuff in printed ballot papers that would yield a positive result for their desired candidates. And we've seen that time and time again. And, you know, I'm not surprised, Senna, because like I said, our public administration has been influenced by partisan politics, especially in our appraisal system. If you do not belong to a certain political party, namely the NDC or the MPP, right, you will not be promoted to a certain level in our public administration. And that's a fact. It is highly apodictic. What I'm saying is highly apodictic. Nobody can question what I'm saying. And that is why there's some form of allegiance to political parties than the ultimate allegiance to Ghana and the interests of Ghana. And we need to really have a plan going forward. And this is all about leadership. If we have the right kind of leadership, all these issues will be mitigated. And so the EC, going into this election, we do not trust the EC. EC were in 2020, published different results of the general election, contradicting itself. The EC were missing BVR and BVD machines, were reported by the media, and they denied it, but later came to the conclusion and the agreement that yes, indeed, these BVR and BVD machines were stolen from their warehouse. And so, Senna, we are much more concerned about the preparation of the EC. We think that going forward as a country, we need to bring a lot of reforms, as I did espouse here. We have to also adapt technological solutions on how we can be able to mitigate multiple voting, right? With the BVI and BVD machines where you can verify, I mean, you can verify, but it's alleged and it's true that some EC officials are party officials. Some EC officials that are going to conduct this election are known members of the MPP, right? And it's alleged in previous elections that you can give multiple ballot papers to one person to go and tamper it and then put it in the ballot box. I believe that going forward as a country, and which we under the Movement for Change would adapt in the future, we would use technological solutions in our electoral process. So for example, if you're going to vote and you have multiple ballot papers, it will not go into the box because maybe it will be a smart box. We would have a smart box system that would be able to mitigate this issue. And also with the logistical aspect of the EC, how are we able to track? Because I think that the sales are not enough. As for sales, Senna, I can go and buy sales of the same color. I can, if I know the MPP or the NDC, be it I want to have an agenda to rig or to steal the contents inside. If I know that this my opponent is using maybe a yellow seal, I can equally go and, these are items that are procured in the open market. You can equally go and do that, change it, and then, you know, do whatever you want to do. So we want to advance the security of the distribution of electoral materials and, I mean, adapt technological instruments like GPS tracking systems that, I mean, I would say motion sensitive, where if you tamper with it, it would ring out an alarm that would alert the EC officials of such tampering. And I think that going forward, the people of Ghana are yearning for a change. We have the will, as members of the Movement for Change, led by Alan Tremantin, who I say without any doubt is the reincarnation of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Looking at his vision, because Nkrumah was a visionary person. Alan is also a visionary person. Alan is an industrialist, he has done it before, and he can do greater. And of course, he is a transitioning leader. And that is why in the history of our fourth republic, Senna, the running mate of Honorable Alan Kojo Tremantin is just 40 years old. 40 years old in the person of Kwame Owusu-Danso, who is a social activist, a lawyer, and a very young, determined man who wants to see Ghana change. And I think that this is the best combination, taking into consideration the demography of the voters in this coming election, that the youth are going to decide who will lead Ghana. And in going to decide who will lead Ghana, we are going to select somebody who has the youth at heart, somebody who has the character, the competence, and the credibility, and the track record in establishing an enterprise economy. And that is why, if you read the history of his work, in 1994, when Nelson Mandela left prison, and he needed 7 experts to help build an enterprise economy in South Africa to alleviate the suffering of the destituted indigenous people of South Africa under the apartheid regime, Alan Kojo Tremantin was one of those experts. Today we celebrate a continental free trade area in the name of Africa Continental Free Trade Area, which he was a key architect in formulating that. And so I'm wrapping up with this. So, Senna, we know that we have what it takes to reform the EC. This issue that I've given and this resolve that I've given from the Movement for Change is the best way going forward. If we want to enjoy the peace that we've been enjoying since, and if you look at the Global Peace Index, Ghana has declined from the 40th position in 2022 to now the 55th position in 2024.
That will come to the matter of security.
And so,
shortly.
and so these issues definitely influence the security that we enjoy as a country. And we hope that the Ghanaian people would place their trust in Alan Tremantin, who would do it. And he's not going to be a leader who will give excuses. He will do it. He has a erudition, he has a competence, and he has a love of the people. And we would promote absolute governance, and we will ensure that EC is reformed, so that tomorrow no partisan or political person would uphold this high office of the Electoral Commission.
Thank you, Doc. A few comments before I go to Madam Joyce Bamutari. Livingston says it was in Poland. I think the matter of the twins was in Poland. Then Zulan Adiko says most of the misinformation is coming from the Jubilee House. Marilyn Tego says he lost his credibility when he decided to defend what was not defensible. I'm not so clear what Marilyn is talking about. There's Idrisu Kasim, who is then talking about the post, the professor in question. The confidence level of his research was the 1 million ways to win the elections. Things around us as we complain in our homes, the use of children in political adverts. There's always, this is Sani Harun, says, oh my God, this woman is so amazing. What a class, intelligent, high standard thinking. I think she can be future president of Ghana 2032. So Joyce, prepare. Well, I think it was one of the, Kobla Agbenyega, I think when you were complaining about the use of the fake news, mostly by the NPP, Kobla Agbenyega's response was only, you to use so, man. That's the only thing he said on issue. Anyway, in fact, before I come to you, Joyce, there's this comment coming from Kojocho Mwafo. He says, good morning. Let's just cut straight to the chase. We are in injury time, and the referee is biased. The removal of Charlotte Osei with trumped up charges and a subsequent appointment of MPP oppressionists from Jin Mensa, Niblo Kualote through Bosman Asari and Apiahini, among others, was designed by Akufo-Addo to rig elections. Simple. The AC has been engaged in preparative ex-ante rigging for the past 6 years. There are also well-laid plans for ex-post rigging. The several layers of collation from constituency through regional to national is testament to their wish to change results by any means necessary. What they haven't bargained for is the reaction of Ghanaians to any attempt to change the outcome of the elections and usurp the will of the Ghanaian people. Clergy, they clearly, they are not good students of history, so they should try it. Ms. Mutari.
You know, on matters of the Electoral Commission, all of us are adding them. You know, there can be no gainsaying. You know, you can't even say it in so many words. There's just no description for how low this particular Electoral Commission has sunk. I mean, think about it. You look at the public perceptions of our public institutions since Akufo-Addo has been in office. We have completely lost all the gains we've made. We now have various constitutional bodies, right, that are literally there to sing the anthem of who is in power, right? To dance to the tunes that are being belted out. Literally to satisfy every whim and caprice, including idiosyncrasies of President Akufo-Addo, nothing else. If the public can tell you and I, for example, that this individual is a partisan individual, a communicator for the New Patriotic Party, and yet such an individual is allowed to take up an appointment as a commissioner of Ghana's Electoral Commission, and nobody can say anything, despite the public outcry and the public interest, people petitioned the President of the Republic of Ghana, and all of these requests met literally absolute silence. This is a man who does exactly what pleases him. A man who now believes even that Ghana is largely an heirloom, and he can do and speak and dictate whatever the pace is that he actually thinks is right. What I have come to realize is that, honestly, maybe we can take all of the Fourth Republic into consideration. That since this Electoral Commission was born by the 1992 Constitution, I have never seen, ever, such deliberate incompetence, such intentional and deliberate attempts calculated to disrupt the election. to create a certain wrong impression. Above all, listen carefully. At every step of this conversation, what do you see the EC do? Next day, there's a press conference. Next day, there's a press statement. 2 days later, there's an explanation. 4 days, you know, subtle admissions, but deliberately pretending that they are carrying on this grand charade of exhibiting a competence that doesn't exist. So you ask yourself, whom really are they undermining? The EC is now undermining itself in furtherance of somebody's interest. The truth is that Akufo-Addo wants a third term through Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. Fact. What is the real reason why he cares what goes into the Electoral Commission? The reason is simple. They want to avoid accountability. Don't forget that this is a party that rose into power largely through false information and propaganda. They damaged the NDC to the point where even members within our own political party were not even sure that they were actually in the same political party, because they believed a lot of the rubbish and garbage that was spewed. Look at the way and manner in which Charlotte Osei was attacked. Look at the sort of criticism that she received. They literally hijacked the whole process of that election until they were declared winners. Till date, I am yet to see a more unsuited, literally not fit for purpose, a completely, I don't even know whether they are going or coming. I believe they themselves don't know what they are up to. In terms of registration, in terms of voter exhibition, in terms of even basic deployment of, ballot papers, in terms of literally ink for thumb printing, in terms of voter education, indeed. When you see the adverts even that they put out, even in the adverts you see their incompetence. No imagination. Nothing for the first time. And please go and make comparisons between existing advertisements in terms of civic education put out by the EC over the years. And you ask yourself, what's going on? I have personally engaged with a lot of these EC commissioners. At least we all know most of them. My brother, they are not there to serve any citizen's interests. None whatsoever. I think because we have all exposed them as being partisan even, they are now even more prepared to go against the will of the people. You know, maybe sometimes I ask myself, maybe we should have ignored them or pretended we didn't know. But for the first time, the National Democratic Congress has risen up to the occasion. We have taken all the recommendations for reforms to the EC seriously. We returned to IPAC on advice because, of course, once we were sitting on the fence, it wasn't easy to tackle them from within. Now we have literally taken a seat at the table of IPAC. It may not necessarily have any judicial or legal basis, but it's actually a pressure point or a point where all other beneficiaries, I will call them the biggest constituency representatives of the Electoral Commission. So they meet there to discuss matters that affect elections or processes of elections in Ghana. And what have we experienced? Day in, day out, a whole gamut or raft of mistakes demonstrating their incompetence beyond anybody's reasonable measure or logic. Senna, this election is literally up for grabs. I know that for months now, the new patriotic party has known months ahead and has information, data, research, suggesting that they face an exit. They know. In both the parliamentary and the presidential. Indeed, the rate of attrition was so bad even in 2020 that we literally have a hung parliament. It has never happened before. What we ought to take into cognizance is the fact that the NDC went into opposition with the largest loss in a very long time. And by 2020, they were marching them boot for boot. That alone should tell us something. Make no mistake, the Electoral Commission and its commissioners themselves know that they've literally been caught pants down, that all the gimmicks will no longer hold sway, because for the first time, we have risen up to our responsibilities. First and foremost, to the citizens of Ghana, that their ballots ought to be protected. But I've also still heard rumors that chances are people will go to the polling stations and probably not find their names on the register, because in the course of the exhibition, they took so many weeks to reconcile the lists of voters that by the time it was time for them to consider the exhibition, there was no longer enough time to do it. So they had to do a process of going online to check. They sent out a short code. Maybe some people checked, others may not have checked. Maybe there are even many people who had no means even of checking, or didn't even get the communication allowing them to go there and check. You know, on all these issues, if the NDC had any comfort, for example, in seeking judicial redress, maybe for weeks now, we would be in court day in, day out. And I am privy to the debates about whether we should take action, whether we should go to court, we should seek redress legally, whether we should take the time to sue the EC. The question you ask is that, to what end and in whose interest will that be? In any case, you find out that month after month, it appears that the EC has become a law unto themselves, dictating even in the blatant and flagrant exposition of their incompetence. They still try very hard to create a certain impression that doesn't exist. When you send them information, you find that they are admitting it in one breath. In another breath, they are denying it. But every step of the way, they are delivering on what it is you are asking. Look, I was preparing this morning, I read a very interesting quote many years ago. This is actually from Dr. Sajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, when he was launching the CPP many years ago. This was as far back as 1949. And then he said, and I quote, "There come in all political struggles rare moments, hard to distinguish but fatal to let slip, when even caution is dangerous, when all must be set on a hazard, and out of the simple man is ordained strength." And unquote. The EC must know that there is something in the citizen, that when the Ghanaian citizen makes up their minds that this is the change that they want to have. And I listened to a very young student yesterday. She said the reason why we are in a democratic dispensation is that if we do not like something, we go there and vote for change. And so if we change and vote for this party and they also come and do not do the things that we want, we have every responsibility to go back out there and change them again. Take right from the days of the Abu Ramadan cases all the way to the Supreme Court, for example. At each step, the EC was given directions on what to do, how to do it, and what not to do. So it did not start from today. For some very interesting reason, even in Parliament, have you ever heard the EC take a budget to Parliament? That was rejected before. Have you ever heard the EC take a CI to Parliament? That was rejected before. No. Because they are deemed as impartial arbiters. The taxpayer deems that responsibility as a very serious one in furtherance of our democracy. So the idea has always been that we will err on the side of the caution by giving the Electoral Commission as much support as they require. So funds are not a challenge. Technology to advance the course of their work is not a challenge. Legislation backing their work or giving them vent for what it is they need to do is not a challenge. Now what we have is that the individuals spearheading all this trust that we repose in them are themselves biased in this exercise. And therein lies the real sadness that we call an electoral commission. This is the real problem, because there's this grand agenda to satisfy one political party against the other. But what they actually have not actually thought of is that that other side that they are trying so hard to try and subjugate has actually risen above and now takes very seriously its responsibility as being the mouthpiece of the entire citizenry. And so even though they are refusing to adhere to caution, as Osajifo said, sometimes the ordinary man is the one that will lead them to accept that caution. And so I have no doubt that when Ghanaians go out there on December 07, as they vote and vote out this very, 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 very useless administration, the message will be sent very clearly, not just to government, but also to the Electoral Commissioner, that everything that they do that the citizens will literally be able on D-Day to checkmate their activities. You heard the protests from ordinary citizens, not political parties. You heard the protests even in the course of destroying, apparently, ballot papers that were over the numbers they required. You heard about the fact that in some cases even, they have printed insufficient ballot papers. In another situation, that serial numbers were wrongly attached to the ballot papers. In another place, that little locks that they put on them had been tampered with in the course of distribution. And then they come out and tell you that political parties need not expend resources to monitor transfer of ballot boxes and ballot papers. Says who? If the EC were a body that were operating independently of government manipulation and interference, all of us would know. If the EC were not filled with these very politically partisan individuals, all of us will know. In any case, were we not here in Accra, when an EC commissioner told everybody that the National Democratic Congress, purveyors of the 1992 Constitution, were a threat to our democracy in Ghana. But you know something? Wrong. The real threat to our democracy is responsible individuals who refuse to do what is right, who refuse and pretend to even to be incompetent because they seek to please one side against the other. The new patriotic party led by Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, they know that they have woefully failed the good people of Ghana. That but for the rigging through ballot stuffing and stolen votes, for example, and the intimidatory tactics that they exhibit, because they know that they have literally, you know, there's something that mostly cheats do. What they do is that they deconstruct everything that you and I hold dear or think is right or wrong. So, for example, they will tell you that, you know, if the NDC has 2 or 3 members of Mahama's family working in the NDC or members of the NDC, it is wrong because it is happening in the NDC. But if in the New Patriotic Party we have 50 people affiliated to Akufo-Addo and Bawumia and their families working in our party, it's okay because they are party members too. If the finance minister is my relative, it is my party, it's okay in the MPP. But if the finance minister in the NDC happens to be the relative of an elder or member of the NDC, then it is wrong. So they have ways that they manipulate and blackmail society to start to think a certain way, largely because as you deconstruct all the things we hold dear, you also get people to do what? To kowtow to you, to be afraid of you, to be scared to even criticize you. So you promise that you are going to make a pledge to the Almighty God, that you are going to donate from your heart a cathedral in honor of God for having made you president. But you go back and take taxpayers' money, about $58 million of money that we could utilize in many other places. Nobody goes to court and is able to stop you. In the end, you expend all these resources, and that is what we know. There is so much more that we don't know. And at the end of the day, what is it you are telling us? It's okay because it is my party, it's me in the MPP doing so it's fine. But shut your eyes for a minute that the NDC, in similar circumstances, had committed even $10 million, a fraction of $58 million. You will see the deconstruct, telling you how wrong it is because it is being done by the National Democratic Congress. But when same and worse is being done by the MPP, it's okay. So money was found under the bed of Madame Cecilia Dapa, millions of dollars and cedis altogether, sanitation minister. She gets a lovely letter, dear this, dear that. But look at the way they deconstruct when it is on the National Democratic Congress's side. For how much? For a farthing. But they will convince the generality because of the aggression with which they say it. Similar thing has happened in Parliament. When we heard the former speaker, and at least I will say one thing for Professor Michael Quay, he tried very hard not to disgrace himself and tried very hard to navigate the murky waters of having set a precedent that when same was replicated by the current speaker, the same deconstruct was used strategically to convince society that what Speaker Bagbin is doing is wrong. But when it was done in similar circumstances by the then Professor Michael Quay, then Speaker of Ghana, as he then was, it was okay. You see, this is the society we live in. So there's a law for them, then there's one for us. The judiciary must do things in a certain way for them, And then there's something for us. The EC must act a certain way for them. Then there's something for us. So yes, it's okay to come and cite Charlotte Osei for procurement breaches that probably had absolutely nothing to do whatsoever with her leadership of the EC or the Electoral Commission. And yes, we've won. But no, we should tell the people that it is still wrong to keep her because we don't deem her as our person. So let's let her go and bring someone that we consider as our person and attach many other partisan people, and to hell with all of you. Who cares what you think? I have won by a very large majority, and I'll do what pleases me. In any case, this is a man who told us that he was actually an adherent of the rule of law. How has the